Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. And I'm so excited to get to know and learn from Phil Gruber today. Hi, Phil.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, everybody out there.
Yeah, so you guys, Phil is, we are so lucky to have him on the show and to introduce his work to you, because if you're ready for an expansive view of life and a path to your heart from your head, Phil has so much knowledge that will help you see the world in a different way without fear, more in mastery than most people. He's an acknowledged worldwide as a foremost teacher of light language, sacred geometry, advanced healing techniques, the true law of attraction, the indigo children, the Magdalene mysteries, the physics and metaphysics of consciousness, oh my God, and creation, and an ever-expanding repertoire of diverse and fascinating subjects. So today we are going to have an amazing talk because I'm a student here. I'm definitely not aware of what I don't even know. So Phil, let's start with, for people that have never heard your work and don't know you, could we start with you explaining your journey of how you even got this curiosity to deep dive into all of these mystical experiences before we talk about the subject today? Could you share a little bit?
Sure. My story is not that different from a lot of other people's. I've always been curious. Okay, then there was the walk-in. Okay, all right. I am a continuing student. Sure, I teach this type of information, these type of classes, but I always consider myself a continuing student and teacher of the mysteries. I've been into the mysteries as long as I can remember. I did have a car accident when I was 6 years old, in which a car hit me head on. I was thrown up in the air down the street, but not a scratch. This is a case I believe. I just like to suggest to people that this is a case of a classic walk-in. A walk-in when someone has a contract to be here, and normally the angelics or the higher intelligence wouldn't want to intervene directly. You know, there's a kind of a non-interference type of directive that they do honor. But if someone really needs to be here, they will directly intervene. And when that car hit me, it hit, something came in at that moment. I remember this pretty clearly, that the force of the impact threw me. Estimate the car was going about 60 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I should have been flattened.
Right.
But I didn't have a scratch. And it was not soon after that, my mother wanted to start taking me to psychiatrists, the things I was talking about. I mean, a lot of people have imaginary playmates when they're that age, but they're not, their names aren't the names of angelics, and all these higher identities. I'm spouting off of the names of the angelic choirs and stuff that I really didn't have a reference to understand until I got much older. Certainly in my teens, when I met people that had either had similar experiences or people that were interested in magic. I joined a magical brotherhood pretty early, but I was always interested in the physics and metaphysics. I was what you would call a prodigy back then in math and science. Not anymore. I can hardly remember a shopping list now. But when I needed it, I had it. And as time went on, more and people, we were attracted to each other. A lot of us, and a lot of us listening out there, we've experienced a lot of the same thing. There's this Greek word called pathos. It's not pathos. Pathos is a transcendent longing. I think we've all had that transcendent existential longing to be able to share who we are, or to learn who we are through each other, to share our joys and our sorrows and our feeling that we feel like like in fairy tales, the lost bride, the lost princesses, who are searching for our true source. We honor our parents, but we understand that our parents aren't our true source. Sure, they birthed us in to this world, but we are like these, like the Shekinah, the presence of God, the immanence, the presence of God within us, so long denied, has been in a state of exile for so long because the denial of that presence within us, let's say the presence of God or even the divine feminine within us, she has been in a state of exile. But now I think the time has come, and we can't even really call it the return of the divine feminine because she hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
Not like she has to return from any particular place, time. She's always been here, but once we embrace that, then the presence of God, the immanence now can return in all her divine radiance and now be the one that liberates matter from its bondage. And in that, and this is why it's so important nowadays, you see it from all corners, people talking about the Magdalene mysteries. There's an upsurge in interest in who she was, what her role was, what her very complicated role with the other disciples were, with Jesus, of course, what the divine feminine means, what it means to bring the feminine back to her rightful place in the spiritual hierarchy.
Right.
All these sleeping beauties within us, just waiting for the right kind of kiss to wake us up. And I think we all have a part to play in that. Certainly you do, Kathy.
Well, the thing that I'm feeling when you said the longing, I think there's been a feeling of being alone, and then when we were shut down, a lot of us found each other. I mean, it was like the gates opened of finding it's not just soul family, it's frequency and the willingness to expand, because this time has been a huge opportunity for people to really look at their core beliefs and their programs and decide if they want to keep them anymore. The program of the divine feminine or the patriarchy, I mean, I don't believe that we're fighting against. I love how you expressed that it was always there. It's just been not maybe acknowledged. But I don't want to see the the balance goes from patriarchy to matriarchy. I don't want to see this. I want to get to this.
Right. You don't want it to be polarized. You don't want it to be like that rubber band effect where
Right.
it goes from this to its diametric opposite. You want to see an integrated balance.
Right. Well, and it's also the creative love, the birthing. I mean, for us to go to this new era, which is supposed to be of peace and harmony, we got to get something. We got to change this whole infrastructure, the whole construct of this reality right now. And I don't know how much time we have. I mean, we're at the very beginning of it. So your knowledge and your consistent frequency explanation that you keep giving out is almost an opening for people, as they don't have to be all the way across the bridge. They can be at the one side of the bridge and then work their way over with your stuff, because the more you understand, the deeper the resonance is. Is that a correct way to put it?
That I couldn't have put it any better. The fact is that the knowledge is great. It's you read it in all the works of higher calling, that our people suffer from lack of knowledge, but that knowledge has to be made useful. It's got to be practical. People need to understand it. The wisdom becomes the knowledge becomes wisdom. The wisdom becomes understanding. And I just wouldn't spout off this stuff if there wasn't a practical value to it.
Perfect.
If it wasn't useful in where we're all trying to go. I have a piece of it that I'm very fortunate and lucky, sure, to have this piece. And I've really devoted the biggest chunks of my life into, just like everybody else, a continuing student, trying to understand stuff I was given in this supposed walk-in, because a lot of stuff changed when I was 6 years old. and I really didn't have a reference. I mean, sure, I was still a very normal kid. I was a popular kid, but what's something really weird? Went to my 20th year grammar school reunion many, many years ago, and I realized that I was not only friends with the popular kids, I also was friends with the outsiders and the outliers, the ones that nobody else would be friends with. There's always somebody in your class at such a young age carrying a big briefcase with all the books, the class genius. I was friendly with them all, and I realized that I really had taken my love and I shared it with everybody, not just with the popular kids, also with the kids that had nobody else, that felt alone, that felt that they were just had to go through this alone. I realize now that I had, that feeling when you're feeling like and I've said this before, where your heart feels like it's so big it can't be contained in one body.
Yes.
And everything is about sharing. Everything is about sharing your love, also your pain, your mission here. And then little by little, people start to become attracted to you, birds of a feather, like minds, kindred spirits. You put that out. And sure, it was experimenting in my teens and in my 20s, doing a lot of journeying, but that helped bring us together also. I was a member of a magical fraternity at a very young age. That helped too. And I had access to many private libraries that people usually don't have access to, basically to try to confirm what I've always known. I got so much information downloaded to me at a very, very young age. I didn't really know how to use it. So my whole life has been really an attempt to understand what it is that I got at a young age when, again, I had no reference for it. And I think the reason that the Pistis Sophia, a lot of the Gnostic apocryphal texts are gaining a lot of attention now, because they hold within them incredible secrets, dialogues between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. There are so many Gnostic texts. I don't think we've even seen all the Dead Sea Scrolls and all the Nag Hammadi scrolls. There's so much amazing information in there that you can understand why it wasn't included in the Synoptic Gospels and the accepted Gospels. The Pistis Sophia, especially because the Pistis Sophia takes place, Jesus returns after his first ascension in his body of light for an additional 11 years. And in those 11 years, he instructs the disciples on what's called the higher mathematics, the secrets of divine names, cosmic structure, the process of ascension. It's really an extended dialogue between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. All the disciples want to know this, want to know that. When it's their turn to ask questions and they get the answers, they can't understand it. And it's up to the women, primarily Magdalene, to interpret the answers for them, which they appreciated, but they also didn't appreciate the fact that Jesus supported women as being leaders, teachers, preachers, that women should be like men, not that they should stop shaving their armpits, but that women were worthy of being administrators, teachers. And the male disciples had a problem with that. Which is why one of my pet theories is that Jesus chose the disciples. He wanted the women, but he couldn't solicit the women directly. So he had to choose the disciples who brought their wives with them. Just as there was the male disciples, there were circles of Marys also, who did a lot of the heavy lifting. And then because of the love they had of their husbands, sort of spoon-fed it to them. It seems they didn't get a lot of the higher teachings. As a matter of fact, the light was so bright when Yeshua came back after the ascension, they said, the light's too bright, can you tone it down a little bit? Anyway, in a few minutes, and thank you for this opportunity, Kathy, to get into the Pistis Sophia. We're going to do a kind of some broad strokes, but then some very specifics. And if there's time, maybe a short meditation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you have a lot of fans that are showing up. Victoria Reynolds put good morning. It's wonderful to see two of my forever best friends in one place. Isn't that cool? And Noelle and Bob have said, good to see you on Kathy's show. Always great info on so many subjects. Yay. And then we've got Francine wrote, I too identify born as an indigo child, and I relate to all you speak of. I share my love with everyone. We are the structure busters,
That's
as I
right.
was born in 71.
Just really quickly, Kathy, I'm glad Francine came on. I know we didn't have a lot of time to really publicize this in a
Yeah.
bigger way, but I would love to come back whenever
Okay.
you want me to talk specifically about the indigo children.
Oh, wonderful.
And and it's funny because they are referenced in the Pistis Sophia, that groups of divine souls will make their presence known on the planet in our time. There's a lot we can say about the indigos in
Wow.
relationship to what's happening on the planet now. You know, a lot of people feel that the time of the indigos has
Oops.
started coming here in the 70s. We only started to be noticed. And there are reasons. There are intense reasons why we're here and why the time of the indigos has not come and passed. It's more important than ever. Thank you, Francine, for that, because it's more important than ever that we understand ourselves as indigos, whatever you want to call us. Psychic, super psychic children, mythic, magical, mystical children, children of the blue ray, the blue kachina, sons and daughters of God, B'nai Or, B'nai Elohim, blah, blah, blah. Where it's more important than ever. The blah, blah, blahs are very important, by the way.
The blah, blah, blah.
It's more important than ever that we understand who we are, why we're here, and why we came at this particular time. Most people, you come into a new incarnation, you forget everything you've learned. Parental karma starts to kick in, this and that. We need to remember these are the most profound and pertinent, significant questions humanity has always asked themselves. Who are we? Why are we here? What's our purpose? Where do we go when we leave? Well, those questions have answers.
Well,
They really do.
so today we're going to focus on the divine feminine, but of course you can come back anytime and talk about we could talk sacred geometry, which I love, love, love. I mean, there's so much stuff that that you have access to the esoteric teachings, and you can direct us to be informed, because I think there's people have questions and they don't want to go through the normal route of having an intermediary to get the answers. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the opportunity to really empower and direct people to information that is it's been there all along, but it's been hidden in a way that maybe we weren't ready for it. Maybe we weren't the right resonance for it, but now there's enough of that energy level, that frequency, that it can have a platform here.
Well, we
So,
certainly got to get ready. I mean, in terms of the eternal, ever-present now moment, we've got to get our act together. We're
yep,
being given opportunities now that aren't normally available during non-ascension cycles. The potentials that exist within all of us as individuals and as a race, we can really exploit now in a very, very positive way, which is why I'm very, very happy. Sure, I may go on to different kind of contracts in the future, but right now, what I'm doing now, I feel really good about. I think I'm in the right place at the right time with the right people, present company included.
thank you.
Being given these opportunities to share what is so close to my heart. Sometimes I really have to. I'm so passionate about this. The people that think that my stuff is comes too hot and heavy too fast, I would just really recommend, even in this next 30, 45 minutes, just relax. Just be present with it. I'm totally present with it. Just just let it wash over you, just like waves coming in and out of the shore. We never learn anything at first blush. And most of the time we learn in the sleep and the dream state. We get the information, but we really start organizing it when we dream, when we sleep. Now just enjoy the ride. Stay present with me. I'll stay present with you. I've got a lot to share. It sounds like it's coming from my head, but it's coming from my heart. It's actually coming from three places that meet in the heart. You know, Charles Haanel, the guy that wrote the Master Key, which I teach, I always will include this in all of my personal mentorships, groups, whatnot, because the Master Key was written originally in 1916, was a mail order program. You got a lesson a week. It's 24 lessons in 24 weeks. What does it teach you? How to control your thoughts. And this is why most programs, not just spiritually oriented programs, success, personal spiritual development programs, fail because people on the whole do not know how to control their thoughts. And a lot of the source material for Rhonda Byrne's Secret, these new thought authors, these transcendentalists, one thing above all was the control of thoughts.
That's right. And also, don't you think, Phil, it's also framing everything in that everything is good, is working for me. So looking for the best case scenario, so that instead of fear being the first thing that pops up when you triggered or when something happens, that you're looking for the gift in it, because I think that perspective changes everything. Do you agree with that as well? Because that, and then being present with what's going on, because your body doesn't lie. Your body knows. So if you feel it in your gut or your heart, right?
Absolutely. Look, I'll talk about this. There's a divine potential within us, within all humanity, that really wasn't damaged by the fall. And the divine Sophia, the higher wisdom, that's the divine spark within all of humanity. Sophia, which is represented as a feminine identity, really in the Pistis Sophia, that's faith and wisdom, by the way. Let's start right from scratch.
Okay.
I'll draw some broad strokes. There's a lot to get through, but I think I'm going to be able to communicate in the time that we have just how important this is, and how an understanding of Pistis Sophia's journey and her ultimate redemption and resurrection is a model for all of us. Pistis Sophia is faith, wisdom. Faith in wisdom, wisdom in faith. She's represented as a divine, feminine, creative energy that, kind of like Eve, through her ignorance and naivete in wanting to implant divinity in the lower worlds, or because she took the course of implanting divinity in the lower worlds, became trapped in the worlds of chaos, in what they call the lower aeons. She loses her position in what they call the 13th aeon. In other words, wisdom fell under control of what's called the inferior hierarchies. Now, they can be the lower thought forms, the ego we'll talk about, but the Pistis Sophia, and certainly in its commentary, the wonderful commentary by the doctors J.J. and Desiree Hurtak of this amazing Coptic text, one of the Nag Hammadi scrolls, when Jesus talks about inferior hierarchies, he's talking about non-benign celestials, primarily Dracon races, Dracos races, which we'll get into if there's time a little bit later. Understand that this is just sort of laying the groundwork. If people want to explore further, they can get in touch with me. They can email me. I'm always offering private one-on-one mentorships. They can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I tell you, the people that have signed up for 1-year mentorships with me, we're going on the 3rd year now.
Wow.
For me, it's not over till it's over, right? So wisdom, the Pistis Sophia, fell under the control of inferior hierarchies, which allow for, now listen to this, imperfect condensations of matter and energy. Now that can mean the imperfect condensations can be negative thought forms, but they can also be genetic hybridizations of certain races without a regard for the respect and reverence for all that live non-cooperatively, competitively, and that doesn't honor the sovereignty of these races that they took through conquest, through dominion, and they hybridized. So the Pistis Sophia, now that she is fallen into the worlds of chaos, petitions to be saved. She sings prayers. Jesus comes to help. She repents. She goes on this whole journey of repentance is called metanoia. More than repentance is also, repentance is you repent, but you also agree, you make a covenant to change your mind. We'll talk about that in a minute. So Jesus comes to help the fallen Sophia, bringing salvation to the lower worlds. What this is, Kathy, and everybody out there, Pistis Sophia, a lot of these, and not just the Gnostic texts, if you read between the lines in all the works of higher calling, it's all about the restoration of the female virgin matrix, the restoration of the divine feminine, bringing the feminine back to her rightful place in the spiritual hierarchy. Because someone will say that, almost like Lucifer, she had a desire to seek a divine identity apart from the Godhead. We can talk about it also, but basically the Pistis Sophia is the gospel of the feminine Sophia and the higher wisdom. She is the one who by faith becomes the bride, or the daughter bride, the nukva, they say in Hebrew. And it's important to understand that the Pistis Sophia, like all works of higher calling, even including the Course in Miracles that I talked about the other night, it's a meta language. What is a meta language? It conceals a language. It conceals a secret language. Now, the teachings of the Pistis Sophia was given to open the gates, the gates of light, Share Ora. Sure, there are planetary stargates. Sure, those stargates lead to interdimensional stargates, but we have those same stargates within us. They are called Kabbalistically and other teachings, the Share Ora, the gates of light. And even the words that I'm speaking now, remember, all language, whether it's written, spoken, sung, chanted, toned, light language, all language is light language. Everybody out, no matter what kind of healing you do, Kathy, you are. Someone comes to me and says, I'm an energy healer. Well, I got news for them. Who isn't? We're all healing with energy. We're all healing with light and sound. We're all healing with consciousness. We're all healing with very specific organized configurations of wave patterns, scalar waves. All the language that what I'm speaking to you now is being converted into electrical impulse as it interfaces with you. And that's a mathematical coding. It's the magic of yantras, mantras, mandalas. They convert into electrical impulse, which is a mathematical coding. They act as keys, electromagnetic keys that open up the gates of light within us. All the vortices, certainly the major vortices, which the chakras are, but many, many vortices in the body that connect with many, many higher intelligences, or just even to let light in, to illuminate which is in the dark. So the Pistis Sophia, like many of these gospels, was given to open the gates of light that had been closed. So the brotherhoods and sisterhoods, again, can merge with their human counterparts. This has always been a divine human partnership. And when we talk about virgin, Jesus scanned the world looking for a mother to be birthed through. He was looking for a virgin, but not what most people think. A virgin is a soul that's receptive to the influx of divine grace. Yes, it means many other things, young woman, young girl, but a virgin is a creative energy that lives in innocence, in a state of innocence. Why did Jesus choose his mother? Because she lived in her heart. She was innocent. In other words, she didn't have any karma that he had to birth through. You know, you come into this world, a lot of us indigos, Francine, we choose mothers. But if we feel, and we start the fetal integration process, but if we feel our mothers are not going to do the clearing necessary to birth us in without certain handicaps that wouldn't allow us to fulfill our missions, we will turn back. We will go back to where we came. Here on the earth, these events are manifested as stillbirths, miscarriages, and tragic events they are, but realize that they're orchestrated on the higher levels. Jesus scanned the world looking for a mother who was innocent, a virgin, a soul who was receptive to the pure influx of God's grace and didn't have any karmic miasmic patterns that can make that contract more difficult. She was not contaminated by the lower forces of creation, and she was not contaminated by the lower passions and the material games of the flesh. So Pistis Sophia, faith and wisdom, she's the protagonist. She personifies both qualities of faith and wisdom. She represents a divine creative energy, again, that through her ignorance unwittingly implants divinity in the lower creations, and she's dropped. She comes under she drops to the regions of chaos, which is our world is known by. And she falls under the control of these lower hierarchies, for the most part, non-benign celestials, reptilian-type minds that allow for imperfect condensations. She sings prayers because humanity is seen as being trapped in the lower aeons, in the lower world. But as I said in the beginning, Kathy and everybody, there's a divine potential within us, that Christos spark, not damaged by the fall. And Sophia is that spark of divinity trapped in each wayward soul. We're like orphans of the storm. We're like the lost brides and the lost princesses of myth and legends and fairy tales. We have this beauty, sleeping beauty that has slept within us for untold eons, beginning to wake up. And you look at many, many legends that before the Christ comes, the peacemaker has to come. You have to make peace with yourself first. So in book one, Pistis Sophia, the higher wisdom guides us through the bondage and the ultimate liberation of mankind. Many people say we are born into bondage. William Blake, the manacles that bind us here are thought forged. Our thoughts are what binds us. And Mary Magdalene herself says in the Pistis Sophia, thoughts can be our angelic garment or our destruction. So the higher wisdom guides us through the bondage and our ultimate liberation and freedom. One, the final restoration is to be revealed by Christ Jesus through purification of thoughts, purification of our thoughts of the self-willed. Second, and a very important one, is the revelation, the awe and mystery, the full revelation of the mystery of the forgiveness of sins, which we'll talk about at the end. Maybe this should be a two-parter. And the third part is the infinite compassion born from the first mystery, God, source, proton mysterion. You see, Jesus, as the Son of Man, when he came back after the first resurrection, he felt he had to come back in his body of light, as the Son of God in his body of light. Why? To teach the higher mysteries of the divine names. The emanations could be understood. All these higher teachings have to do with the meditation or the vibration of God's names. Because when you meditate on these sacred names, when you start living in the vibration of these names, when you become the living embodiment of these divine names. Remember the Emoto work, the Emoto crystals. The most beautiful crystals are the ones that come through the projection of thoughts of forgiveness and gratitude. And the reason they're so beautiful and they can hold and radiate so much light, it's their structure. They're very complex and beautiful, complex geometric structure that allows those crystals to hold and radiate so much light. So just imagine if you were the living embodiment of forgiveness, gratitude, grace, compassion. Every crystal and microcrystal in your body will be able to hold and radiate that light. That's when you become a presence healer. That's when you heal by your presence alone. You don't need a certification in Reiki. As wonderful as that is, I doubt they gave them back 2,000 years ago. You walk the world and you heal just by your light. You live in what Christ called the effulgence of light. Because in these regions of chaos, we're separate from our true parent source. We have to acknowledge and recognize that we do come from a higher divine blueprint. And the sound link and the word link, through the use of the vibration of God's names, when you use them, they will unite to unfold creation according to a divine blueprint. Now, the physical Jesus, while he walked the earth in his physical body, he shared some of the teachings, but now he shows what's called the fullness, the pleroma of the hierarchies. He describes in detail all the hierarchies and all the stations and identity levels of consciousness in and out of our time matrix. He reveals the mystery of mysteries. It's called the Raza di Razin. And he's very open about the fact that in coming to earth, his mission was not for us alone, that he came to open the gates of light for the ascension of all souls for humans and for parallel orders who have lost their way. Because it seems that many of us, through our will, basically through our ignorance or forced ignorance or naivete or just plain stupidity, we have to pass through the mysteries of the lower light so we can appreciate the unity of the higher light. You know, someone once told me, I really hate to forgive. It doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm diminishing part of myself. I wish they really understood that forgiveness, saying you're sorry, apologizing, doesn't diminish you. It elevates you for Christ's sake. For a second, you know, when you say Christ's sake, you're really saying for the sake of the Christos. In other words, what do you have to sacrifice so you can be a pure vessel for grace coming in and through you? We are the vessels. We are pathfinders. We are, especially the women, Jesus knew this, they are the revealing vehicles for the light of God. We're inexplicably and inextricably drawn to source. Yes. Rudolf Steiner said, in moments of grace, we remember. Or what are we remembering? Like the Course says, we remember that we're perfect, that we're whole and complete. Okay?
Perfect.
And the Divine Mother, I'll stop in a minute,
okay,
is that matrix, the Divine Feminine, which establishes all the major mathematical codes of this pluralistic superintelligence that we can call the unicide, the source that breathes. We look at things in 950 billion year cycles. The last outbreath of the Divine Mother went out for 950 billion years. Now it's coming back. And that angel of air, now it's in that moment when she's ready to take the next breath out, another 950 billion year cycle. And as it says in the Essene Gospel of Peace, and then we'll stop for a little break, the angel of air, who spreads the perfume of sweet smelling fields, of spring grass after rain, of the opening buds of the rose of Sharon, and we worship the holy breath, which is placed higher than all other things created, not just some, all. For lo, the eternal and sovereign space, where rule the unnumbered stars, is the air we breathe in and the air we breathe out. And they knew this, that in the moment betwixt, in that magic moment betwixt the breathing in and the breathing out, all the potential is there, is hidden all the mysteries of the infinite garden. So angel of air, of the messenger of the earthly mother, enter deep within me. Everybody breathe. As the swallow plummets from the sky, so I may know the secrets of the wind and the music of the stars. Kathy?
Wow. What do I say after that? I'm still in it. That's beautiful. I was going to ask how you embody this, but you just did that.
That is how you embody it. You just live it. How you embody it, as best you can, you live it.
Wow. Well,
and
I want
to feel that somehow, because of naivete or ignorance or just plain stupidity, you were violated, or you allowed yourself to be violated, or you, through your ignorance, did the violation. Forgive yourself. The Pistis Sophia gives the formula, which please remind me to give before we finish, how forgiveness is done.
Well, this is what I wanted to share is Noelle and Bob have put, I love A Course in Miracles, which is, of course, one of the ways that people learn how to forgive and realize that they are actually creating their reality, and that they have an opportunity to look at it in a different way to reduce suffering, which is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. It's good they came on. I'm in the process of writing a book called The Miracle Code. I have found a meta language within the Course in Miracles, a mathematical alphabetic language.
Wow.
And there's not time to do it today, but I would love if you give me the opportunity to come back again and again and again.
Sure,
I would love to. I revealed it for the first time publicly last night, 2 nights ago, at the Namaste Village Retreat in Ajijic, Mexico, where for the first time I revealed it publicly, some of my initial research.
Yes. Oh, that's
Yeah,
perfect. So I also wanted you to know Rochelle Gaiman says this is so wonderful. She's a medium and highly intuitive. And then our friend Victoria wrote, I call it resurrection of the divine
that's
feminine,
right.
not her return. As Phil said, she never went anyway. We buried her in our his stories, and she has been emerging over the past few decades to remind us who we really are. So
That's right.
that's perfect. Yes.
You
So,
know, we have been with every negative thought. If, you know, for example, if people want to see an end to terrorism, well, with every negative thought, we terrorize ourselves. With every negative thought, it feeds into a larger morphogenetic field that crystallizes itself in every act of terror on the planet. People need to realize that thoughts are like the genie. It is our inner genie. The genie, our thoughts are compelled, each and every thought you think, even a transient thought, it's compelled by its nature to objectify itself. And we will see it in our hologram here. The genie may think that your wish is going to come back to bite you squarely on the keister, but the thought doesn't judge itself and it doesn't judge you. A negative thought has but one purpose in its existence, which is to help manifest for you the most negative experiences in your life. The thought corresponds to its origin. It doesn't judge you. But fortunately, the same thing goes for positive thoughts. We've invoked that thought from the void. We projected a thought into the void, into the blackness, into the black Madonna, which had that void has the potential. Everything that ever will be, that ever was created, is in there in that soup, that still soup in the God mind. Thought is the dynamic phase of mind, where we project grids, where we project blueprints, templates, allowing that thought to accrete more consciousness, which will eventually crystallize itself. People really got to learn the true power of their thoughts.
right.
This is why the master key is so important.
That's
So the
fantastic.
cross really, according to the Pistis Sophia, that typifies the body within, trapped, imprisoned, in bondage within time and space. And it goes on to say that there were transgressing angels that taught sorcerers for the furthering of evil. A lot of our Kabbalah code, the book that Jimmy F. Twyman and I wrote together, was all about freeing these energies, these entities, these cosmic intelligences that were brought in by sorcerers, black magicians, and many of these churches that we explored and had these experiences in and around Paris. They're kind of like roach motels. They attract these energies, but the portals need to be open so they can return to where they once came from. So you see, for Eve, for Sophia, this is about the resurrection of Eve, as Victoria intimated. This is about, it was the search for the greater light, truth and light, that ultimately led to their fall. But guess what? It's ultimately lead to their and our resurrection. Once we open our mind and truly seek the light, then we can begin to receive the higher mysteries and to share them. That's very important. So the virgin, again, this is our rebirth. Again, as virgins in the light, the virgin is the creative energy that lives in innocence. We need to elevate our thoughts. We also need to sing, to pray to the light. Humbly, we need to acknowledge our state of quote unquote poverty. But again, to be redeemed is to be released from the literal bondage of negative thought forms. And a way to do that is to really learn the true nature of forgiveness. It's never been about blame, Kathy, everybody out there. It's for giving. What do you have to do? What do you have to release? What do you have to let go of in order to be a channel, in order to be the revealing vehicle of God and the pathfinder, to be a clear channel that grace will come in, not just come in, come through you. And the solution, how do you forgive? You apologize. The word apologize comes from the ancient root apollo. Apollo means not many. So when you apologize, you are reaffirming oneness. And I tell you out there, brothers and sisters, there is no more powerful consciousness than forgiveness and gratitude. Just the sheer intelligence, the sheer love, the grace, the power of forgiveness intelligence is more powerful than any human vibration. And it is said in the Pistis Sophia and a lot of other books like this, with progressive apology, the soul is rendered innocent. It's our return to innocence of all intensifications of karma, and is placed in a position of never having been separated from the one. And then we can begin to live in the fullness of God's grace and compassion for all beings. We all can emerge in chaos. Many souls the opportunities are endless, they're infinite. Although there are some whose sins have been so great that they will not find their redemption in this life, but in the world, but in the world to come. We can talk about that next time.
Okay.
But we can only emerge from chaos. And even it's predicted, the indigos in the Pistis Sophia, at the end of time, this time cycle, groups of divine souls will make their presence known on the planet. I love that. We have the ability to live daily, moment by moment, in full knowledge. And again, when you're given greater teaching, greater things are expected of you. But ultimately, if you take it from me, we will know, we will discover the purpose of our creation. We will know the full revelation of ourselves and the full revelation of the Christos in our lifetimes. But we've got to meet spirit halfway.
Perfect. So the tools for forgiveness, could you share a little bit about how we get there? Because of course there's Ho'oponopono, which I'm probably pronouncing incorrectly. There's also prayers, of Course in Miracles. And then there's also, after the Course in Miracles, there's a book called The Way of Mastery. Have you heard of that? Yes. I love that book. I have that downstairs. And so what do we do when we start to realize that we co-created some of that? Because the forgiveness is not just of the abuser, it's of ourselves as well.
It's got to be of ourselves first.
Okay.
You can't be effective as a healer, as a planetary healer, as a grid worker, as a peacemaker. You've got to come to peace with yourself first. Okay. Or even with the best intentions, you're still projecting a lot of your unresolved karma and subpersonality aspects into the grids, unless your intention is so pure. But how pure can your intention be if you have unresolved karma and miasms? Remember, everything is ultimately filtered through your DNA. Right. And so if you have residual karmic patterns, or the condition that we understand as karma that is manifested as what we call miasms, which are actually antiparticles in the particle base of our bodies, that's probably for another conversation. You're only going to project that. Even Wallace Wattles, one of the major source materials for The Secret, the thought has to be held consistently and clearly in your mind. That's why tools like the Master Key, I teach all 24 lessons in 24 weeks. I have a lot of different programs. If anybody's interested in one-on-one or one-on-two or small group programs, this is what I do now. The COVID kind of created that, where I think I was one of the first, Victoria, Sheila, a lot of us went online right away. We kind of were a little bit ahead of the curve there, where we saw you also, where we saw that we really had to go online, use Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's really through Zoom that I was able to organize these mentorships. They're personal, one-on-one. Sure, there's a point where we graduate and we start working with groups. But I think that one-on-one, you don't see a lot of that anymore. It's a beautiful relationship when you work with a quote-unquote teacher. And listen, I'm the first one to say that I'm a continuing student of the mysteries. Yeah. I see all too often, and I know you know what I mean, when people become famous or when people are elevated to master teachers, they kind of stop learning. They sort of they insulate themselves in these sort of like not cliques, but their work. right?
Yeah.
And they really don't, they've stopped looking elsewhere.
Well, I think that's a old guru model. And that old guru model
Yes.
fits maybe for other cultures, but not for Western culture anymore. People are looking to be,
Right.
I mean, I can tell you, I do the same type of work that I've done for over 25 years. And I'm still learning every single day. And actually, I'm looking to learn. I'm open to it. I don't think I know it all because you can't know it all. So I hope that people are all looking at this as a exciting journey to discovery, right?
That's right. And even our prayers indicates that you're willing to work with the divine.
Right.
And when these prayers are sung in praise with our body, our mind, our soul, then you get the direct vibration of light begins to radiate. And that radiation, that light is stronger than any human vibration. Forgiveness, gratitude. Look at the emotive crystals and realize if you become again the living embodiment of these attitudes and the etiquette of mastering yourself here, every crystal and microcrystal in your body will be able to hold and radiate that light. Again, that's when you heal by your presence alone. And prayer combined with the divine names, you will have the imprinting of these sacred sounds of light into all the biocircuits of the body. It's an amazing, amazing process. And when you really learn to truly love, you begin to live in that vibration. You begin to live in all the vibrations of God's names. And again, with forgiveness, your soul is declared innocent of all intensifications of karma. And again, you are placed in the position of never having been separated from the one. And as Bill and Ted would say, your soul becomes righteous. You become a righteous dude or a righteous dudette. And once and for all, you truly are released to understand that the names alone can break the bonds that have bound us here for untold eons. We can be taken literally off the cross of space and time. So the soul that progressively gives apology, you're able to undo the entanglement. It's not enough to cut the cords, by the way. You cut the cords are still rooted in you. There are very specific processes for dealing with the shadow. There are mainstream understandings I know of healing the shadow, but people must understand it's a much more complex process than that. But again, apology is acknowledging of leaving behind these false associations, and understand also that those who have refused to surrender the lesser light cannot receive the spiritual light. But those who release the lesser light, who decide they're going to think more in divine pictures and are not going to let the big thoughts being influenced by the lower hierarchies, then they'll work with the Sabaoth, the host of light. Fear will be reversed by faith, but active faith, like Andrew Harvey says, is sacred activism. Mm-hmm. And the great mystery of the forgiveness of sins, all must forgive. It's very, very important. We're all on our Grail quest. We're all on our pilgrimages. And the Pistis Sophia is all about the pilgrimage. Jesus's pilgrimage in this life, the Pistis Sophia's pilgrimage and ultimate redemption, and all of our redemptions also. Just like the Grail quest, just like the Galahad said, behold, I see the beginnings of all great deeds. I see the reasons behind all courageous feats. Behold, this is the wonder of wonders. Beautiful. Communicating or communing with Christ through the agency of the Grail or the Grail maidens, or the ones because of their, I'll kind of end with this. The reason Magdalene was so prized, all the Magdalenes, all the Marys, they happened to be of the tribe of Benjamin. The reason they were the ones that were chosen to be trained to be high priestesses in these divine temples of sacred spiritual sexuality is because they were the offspring of human females and the Anunnaki, the Nephilim.
Oh.
That's why the other tribes call them the abominations. They are the sons and daughters of rape. As though they may be, the reason they were chosen to be priestesses because of their hybrids of human females and angels, fallen though they may be, they had expanded genetic codes. And because of those expanded genetic codes, they could create very special secretions in their body that could give anyone, a little taste of the Christos and the ascension process. Because of that chemistry, they can generate photonic light within themselves that's called blue star fire, a lot of things. And this is why they were chosen to be these sacred whores. Whores means divine child. Sacred prostitutes. The word prostitute originally means a woman who is sovereign unto herself.
Totally different meaning that we have today. So
really
Francine
different.
asked a question that I'm sure a lot of the audience is interested in knowing, is how you've mentioned that you have one-on-one coaching, you have classes. How do Francine says, I'd like to work with you. How can I?
I'm just going to put my email
Okay.
in here, right?
Okay.
There's a chat. Okay. There it is, Francine. And anybody else who's interested in exploring this further, I have many, many different programs. Try to make them as affordable as possible. These are very challenging times for all of us. And I love working one-on-one or in small groups. Phil Gruber 153@hotmail.com, and I'll send you some information on these mentorships, which are very, very special. Very, very special.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, because I think what happens is that because of your holistic view and your mystical knowledge that you've collected, when you read these books, you're getting so much more out of them than we do, because we don't have the platform, the understanding. So that's where it would be fantastic to take classes with you, because you would give us so much more insight than we would get. We might get it the 5th time reading it. Or
well, I still don't listen. I hate to quote Jesus in this capacity, but everything that I can do, you can do too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be teaching. I wouldn't be putting myself out there if I didn't know that it was possible and have the tools to make it possible. That everything that I have is yours.
Right.
In other words.
Okay.
Right. Laundry room is getting a little bit crowded.
Company.
Well,
yeah.
A lot of feed now. I love this worldwide. Say hello, everybody.
Say
hello from Santa Monica, California. The Hostel is International.
You can't get much more authentic than this.
They said it wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
They'll give you the change upstairs.
Oh, thank you.
See that? Always helpful. Always helping.
Thank you.
I did my laundry this morning.
Oh,
but isn't it all about just cleaning the messes that we've made? Right?
Yeah. Well, I think that
on the other side.
Yeah, the thing that I'm excited about learning from you is, again, the path to joy, because I really think that's what we're talking about is when people feel depressed, they feel like they can't do anything, they don't know what to do, they don't want their anger to rule them, but this is the time of action. This is when I started Conscious Business Zone like a year before the shutdown, but I knew when the shutdown started, it was like game on. This is why we came, is to help hold light.
Yeah, I will go as far to say that you don't hear a lot about abductions as much as you used to. Most of abductees were of a race, a hybrid race that we call the Bellicudium. The Bellicudium are a hybrid race. They're a race we call of the Ruby Order. Why? They have some black cube coating, some diamond sun coating. Now this is, I probably shouldn't even open this one up. Maybe save it for the next time. Only to suggest the reason they were abducted, there's a recessive gene, human incarnates of this specific hybrid race have, interstellar hybrid race. that certain negative races can use to hijack human consciousness. But even 21, 22, 23 years ago, we discussed that there would be an attempt to use genetics. There would be genetic type, what was it called again? See, now I got myself, genetic windows of infiltration of negative digressive consciousness into the world. We need to understand that they exist, but the focus is never on them. I just want to end. Do I have like 5 minutes before we officially end?
Oh, of course. You can listen if you want to keep going. I'm okay with it. I'm totally learning. I'm so your
I'm
heart is
beginning to
so
lose my
beautiful.
voice a little bit. And anyway, not everything all at once.
Okay.
Not like that. Everything all at once was good. It won the Oscars, but not everything all at once. The moral of the story, Kathy, Francine, everybody out there, Victoria, the healing of our intergalactic collective is really going to come through an understanding of the common core of creation through which all races have emerged. And these secrets really exist beyond the realms of these interstellar conflicts. Christ consciousness is that 12th dimensional state of awareness and electromagnetic polarity balance that comes to us through the full activation of that legendary 12 strand, what's called the diamond sun silicate matrix. So Christ consciousness is not only a concept, it's a bioenergetic phenomenon. Next time we're together, we can talk about the Christos, but it's important to understand again that those that have lost certain capabilities and potentials because of interbreeding or inbreeding, we are here, the original human race, which is a race of immortal angelics. We're created specifically to help, to be way showers, to be guardians and custodians of the planetary stargates, the interdimensional stargates, what we call the Templar, to help those races that have fallen to convolution and corruption, to help them raise themselves, to help them once again retain their diamond codes of consciousness, not to be looked on as evil or bad, because again, we need to understand that there's a common core of creation and a singular race of liquid light beings from which we all emerged. That has to be understood, and that really has to be embodied, and ultimately that will be the healing of us and our whole intergalactic, interstellar collective, of which we are intimately a part. I can't hear you now, Kathy. Kathy, I can't hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I can hear you.
I'm sorry, that was my muting did not make noise. Okay, I agree that I feel like this time has been the time to find each other, to support each other in this awareness. And because it's during this time period of us starting into the age of Aquarius, which is going to get us from this warring old patterns of societal structures in all structures, in all facets of our world, that we're now finding each other to find solutions. But you have to be awake and present and in your heart to find the solutions that will work for multi-generations forward. And that's where the indigenous knew that make decisions for 7 generations. I mean, there's so much of this that is almost needs to be all of the ancient knowledge needs to be rediscovered and used in a modern way to get us there.
Absolutely. We all have parts to play in this. No part is more important than the other, but we need to understand how we fit and where we fit. So we can really optimize and maximize our teachings where we have all our gifts, talents, and blessings from this life, from other lives, from parallel lives. We can learn from our future just as much as our past if we can extend our imagination, our consciousness into the future. What a lot of people don't understand, I love this, everybody's doing their watch. that when we dream, our consciousness detaches from its normal three-dimensional focus, and it does go into some of the lower mid-astrals. It does go into the future. I think what some of our wonderful psychics, many are out there, mediums, they're able to retain the knowledge that they learned in the future when we dream, which is one of the main functions of dream, and bring it back lucidly and remember what we learned in our futures.
Yes.
And that incidentally is one of the main hallmarks of fourth and fifth strand activation. You will know that those DNA strands are really activating and beginning to turn on when you have more lucid dreaming, more conscious navigation in the astral, and more memory when you wake up. So just a very simple exercise is, before you go to sleep, it can be worth its weight in gold, or root canal surgery, which is more pretty. Before you go to bed at night, in those last moments before you're fading, I am awake and aware in the dream state.
Yes.
Affirm that to yourself. I am awake and aware in the dream state. I remember and record everything upon awakening. I am awake and aware in the dream state. I remember and record everything upon awakening. And you can even add, I am ready for contact now.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, and you were just with Jimmy Twyman, and he wrote a beautiful book called Barn Dance that was about lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
I read that, I don't know, 10 years ago. That was amazing. So this is all fitting together so beautifully. Last night I was talking to someone, and they're doing that prayer.
I was really fortunate enough to spend this whole last week at Namaste Healing Retreat in Ajijic, Mexico. What a beautiful community they have built. I've known James for almost 30 years.
So wow, I have nothing but delight right now. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and I hope that the audience realizes what an opportunity this is to do a different kind of clearing than a lot of the guests that we have. This is a gift you give yourself in rediscovering who you really are and rediscovering the magic of this reality that may be lost to you right now. It may not feel as good as it could, but we really are hoping that everyone's empowered to reconnect to who they really are and use that power to turn the ship around.
I couldn't have said it better, Kathy. We're here to open doors for each other.
Yep.
We're like feathers in each other's wings. You know, this is where people may not realize the fullness of that statement and how empowering that can be.
Right.
That we all are in this together.
Yes. Yes.
And I thank you so much for creating this window. Love to be back with you again.
Oh,
Please,
sure.
if you have any questions or questions about the mentorships, there are spaces open now. It's the thing I most love to do. Please get in touch with me. Any questions, comments?
Okay.
You know?
We'll make sure that your email and the mentorship information is everywhere, especially on YouTube. And
all they really need right now is the email address.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. And Phil, again, I feel like a student, but I feel like I'm a sister also with our conversation today. I hope everyone's feeling the open-hearted attitude that you have, and the opportunity to serve in a big way. So thank you so much.
You're exactly right. If anyone's not willing to cop to the fact that they are still open to learning, eternal students, I don't know how far they're going to get.
Right. Right.
No.
Well, who knows about all of that? But having compassion for everyone. Everyone's here on a divine purpose, whether they really realize it or not. And what Phil's offering is a way for you to realize your divine purpose.
If
Right.
we knew how much we were loved, in the higher heavens. I swear, Kathy, we would never feel alone.
Right.
We would
Right.
never, ever feel alone.
Yep. Yep. And we have resources that were maybe untapped, that it's the time now to tap in. So, well, thank you, Phil. I'm afraid we're going to
That's
have
right.
to sign off, but we'll do this again. And thank you so much.
Sure,
I know.
we got love on tap, you know. It's endless. It's always happy hour in the Gruber residence.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again,
dear.
Kathy. Much love to you.
Thank
So
you.
much love.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a love that knows no earthly bounds. It's
Thank-
not bounded by time and space. Thank you so much, Kathy
Thank you.
Mason of
Yes.
Mason Works Marketing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, Phil. Bye-bye.